One of the most powerful forces in the universe is the drive for connection. Mostly, we enter the world in a kind of explosive moving away from something. Until you begin your spiritual life, you don't really know what you're moving away from or how you arrived here. But you feel pretty much alone in something that grows and expands before you. And as we all know, most of us come here crying. Out of a certain desperate lack of knowing, our first instinct is to latch onto something. And we don't have any physical mechanism for that because we're infants and we can't hold, we can't grasp, we can't touch. I mean, we can touch, but it all keeps falling away. But the one thing that happens is someone, usually your mother, reaches out and holds you. And there's a feeling of being held or embraced or in some way connected. But then you don't really understand it until she looks at you. And she looks at you with a level of love and joy and gratitude usually. And you feel, I've connected. I am being held. I am acknowledged. I am loved. You feel all of these extraordinary, let's call them endorphin-like experiences that make you go, and you can settle in. Whatever that is, that thing you feel with your mother or your father, or it could be the doctor, it could be who knows, it's a feeling of this. And it becomes the most dynamic desire in your arsenal of how to be in the world. Whatever that thing is, that sense of being seen, touched, held, connected, is the biggest driving force we as human beings have. Here's the hard part. As much as we feel that power, as much as we feel what it means to be held, connected, loved, it doesn't stop us from still being alone and exploding outward into the unknown universe. You cannot hold on to your mother. You cannot hold on to pretty much anything because you're always moving and drifting into infinity. But that doesn't stop you from hungering for and seeking any opportunity to have this. It's a really extraordinary force. You can call it magnetism, attraction, love, but it pulls you to another. It pulls beings together. It pulls beings together who feel safe and comfortable and bonded. When you're very little, your first awarenesses as a child is what we'll call family. Those around you who are familiar, perhaps, not always, safe harbor, but definitely the known world. And that known world of family is something that, if you're lucky, is a place to be. And it's a place to be what you and who you are. And if you're lucky, it allows that to take place with very little judgment, very little manipulation, but that doesn't happen often. Often they send out signals early on that for you to be in this space and to be safe in this space, you have to perform and respond and manufacture a way of being that is acceptable to everybody else. And in order to hold on to that endorphin rush of well-being, you do the dance. You create the person who will be loved. You create the person who will be bonded. You create the form that fits the puzzle as best it can of your familial existence. I know people who have families where none of that can take place. Where the bond doesn't exist, where fitting in doesn't exist, where there is no sense of belonging. There's only a sense of alienation and isolation and confusion, and that is a very hard way to live. And so for many people who experience that, and even those who don't, the rush outside of family is toward another form of bonding and connection. You may not have as much understanding of what it is. If you've come from bad upbringing, knowing how to reconnect with another being is fraught with problems. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to do it. And so it's experimentation and trial and error, and it's mostly made with this person in you who is so disconnected, so afraid, so uncertain, that you have that expression of uncertainty as a constant presence that absolutely alienates other people. So you get only lonelier and lonelier, less and less connected, and more needy and hungry for connection because it's the only safe spot. It's really interesting. I just read an article that every time you turn your cell phone on, you get an endorphin rush. And you get an endorphin rush because suddenly you belong. You're connected. You're connected to what? It's an abstract in a way. The world, the news, life around you. You feel connected. And it's like, and it lasts a while. That's really kind of the wonderful thing. In the old days, you would get a letter from someone. That could last a week. Just this good feeling of somebody wrote you. They went out of their way to connect. A phone call. One of those happy phone calls where you talk to somebody and you just feel like, I love this person, or I know this person, or they reached out to me and I belong. I belong to something. And that sense of belonging provides us with this long endorphin sensibility of like, yes, finally, here. I am here. I belong here. And it's a really exquisite sensation, and we all hunger for it. We all hunger for it. And then, probably the ultimate expression of belonging and connectedness is love of another person. Love of other that embraces your otherness. That is the exquisite ultimate expression of human experience. Finding that love, finding that connection, finding that perfect fit, if you will, both emotionally and sexually, in every way possible. And that absolute coming together produces more life, produces newness, more unfolding of this human experience. And so it has a very powerful reproductive aspect. It's really essential that we find connection, that we find one another, that we find someone else. And that's the journey we're all on. We're all on the journey to connecting. And then we're also very aware of how fragile it is. The person you love suddenly isn't so available, doesn't love you as much, is interested in somebody else, is more interested in the children than in you, more interested in career. There's so many things that happen in connectivity with other, so many things that divorce us from our sense of belonging. And then, what does one do in reaction to that loss? Well, week after week I use the same tropes, drinking, getting lost in, food, talk about endorphins, food, that'll set off that'll take care of stuff for a little while. And sex, there's so many things that we can go to kind of give ourselves a kind of momentary sense that I can do this. So where is all this leading? Where is this all going? Well, all of you who know my talks know where it's going. The real connectivity in the human experience is not to the other, it's to yourself. Real connectivity, the kind that gives you ultimate endorphin awareness, that gives you a sense of truly belonging, a sense of really, really being part of something massive, wonderful, real, alive, beautiful. The real connectivity is to yourself. And the hardest thing for most people is finding that self. And the reason it's hard is because we're looking outside ourselves. We're looking at the outer manifestation of the world, and we're not looking to the one place that it resides in permanent, eternal space, which is within you. The thing from which you exploded is the very source of the connectivity that you want. And the miracle of all of this is that you have never, for 1/1000th of a second, been disconnected. Ever. It is not possible to be disconnected from yourself. This manifested space that you're in is yourself. Everyone around you is an expression of and a reflection of yourself. There is no two. There is no other. It's all one manifested reality. Because this world is so filled with what you might call lost souls, people floating around in the expansiveness, trying to figure it out, trying to bond, trying to find connection, trying to find the attractive magnetic pull that will bring you to that wholeness. Everyone who's looking for that outside keeps failing. You get it for moments, you get it for little, even months or years even, you can get it, but it always will go away. Even a perfect love. Even if you manage to get the most wonderful person on the planet, and I'm one of those people who did, if you do get that, you're going to lose it anyway. You are going to lose it. We all lose it. That's the problem, and we all know we lose it. And that existential fear, that existential problem, is at the core of most suffering. The antidote to that is to find that which is unendingly present. That connection which cannot betray you. That connection which cannot be taken out from underneath you. Finding the connection to yourself seems like, and is presented to most of us, as a huge journey. It's a meditative process. It's an act of sitting still and starting to descend into the person or the being that is at the core of you. And that journey down deep into you is very difficult because it is so filled with density and distraction and other desires and all of these things. So you come to a place of sitting still and all you want to do is run. All you want to do is move. All you want to do is get away from there. But for those of you who become serious about this, and that's a small fraction of people, but if you get serious and you just said, I'm doing this, I'm going to do this, because you've tried everything out there, and you just sit still and you fight through all of the stuff that pulls you away, all the stuff that distracts you. You fight through your desires to, run to the movies or watch TV or read a book or what. You just say, no, I'm sitting here. I am doing this. And as you start to go deeper and you start to breathe into, and I'll just keep looking at the heart chakra because it's such a perfect indicator of love and inward indrawing energy. You get to this space of love that's always trying to reach out and find other love, and you just sit in there and you discover it reaches into you and it finds this place that loves you as you are. If you can sit through all of your crap and just get into this exquisite inner space, it opens up and it reaches out and it takes you and it goes like this, and then you go, that is connection. That is the connection. It's what I have always been looking for, and it's always been right here. It's nowhere else. It's not out there, although it's reflected out there, but it's continually and absolutely, unequivocally here. And so you start to move into it, and then you discover that it's not a tiny little space of love. It has infinite vastness. It is a big embrace. It takes you in, and it is probably for most people the most frightening thing. It is annihilating. It annihilates the false idea that you exist out there independent of this, that you are somehow out in the world on your own. It annihilates the story that you're telling yourself that continually reinforces your separateness. It takes away and destroys all of this stuff that's fighting to have something that ultimately has no longevity and no ultimate truth. It takes everything away. And that's scary for the thing that's being diminished or dismantled. It's scary, but that's the process. When you let go of the false notes, of the untruths, of the stories you've told yourself that ultimately don't add up, when you start to let go of all of this stuff, the journey inward becomes liberating. It frees you from you and your drama and your crazy cockamamie ideas of what life is and who you think you are in it. Or, maybe more problematically, your poetic, beautiful, beautiful sense of self. This wonderful person that you are. This kind, gentle, spiritual, supportive, loving, giving human being. That's as much a trap, guys, as being a horrible person. Because you can't let go of it. That's your safety zone. I'm a good person. It will take that away. You will not remain a good person. Because anything that you are is not real, because it is this temporary sort of configuration of molecules, but that which you truly are is all of those things you're pretending to be. And that's the incredible, exquisite realization that you truly are good, that you truly are loving, that you truly are worthy, that you truly are everything you were trying to fabricate. You are that. And then it just is. And it's not like you making it be anything. It's not like you trying to hold on to it. It's not like you trying to put it in anybody's face and say, oh, I'm such a good person. You will be known, to the degree that you're known, as everything you wanted to be recognized for. But you won't own it. You won't have any sense of the false notes that are involved in it. It will be deeply true. Deeply true, because the essence of who and what we are is everything you are trying to become. And you are already that. You are already that. All of these efforts, all of these crazy sort of schematics you've worked out, and all of these plots and plans that you are making to make sure the world embraces you and loves you and honors you and takes care of you and all of that stuff, you don't need it. You don't need it. When you truly fall back on your essential being, it takes care of you. It doesn't change things much. You'll still be in the world, but you're going to be you'll be a nice person. You'll be in the world and you'll be empathetic. You will be compassionate. You will care about other people because you'll know them as yourself. You will be industrious because making and building and creating in the world is the most wonderful, exquisite experience there is. You feel alive in all of that. You will be supported by that. Success may come, but if success doesn't come, it won't matter, because the fulfillment of satisfying this deep, inner, creative being, allowing this being to flower through you in any way that it does, is so wonderful that whether the world runs and grabs you and says, yay, you're the best, or whether the world ignores you, will not matter. It will not matter. Because you will be so fulfilled by having allowed yourself to be you. Just to be you. Exactly as you are. And the crazy, stupid thing is that you always think that it has to be different. If you have to wear something else, you have to comb your hair differently, you have to, I don't know, whatever it is you think that the world will want you to be in order for it to love you, that goes away. Who cares? Who cares? The person in you that cares about what people think of you, that is the danger point. You will live your life for other people and how they care about you or how they don't care about you or what they give you or what they don't give you, because you don't want to be unsafe. But when you don't care, you can just be. You can just be. And that's kind of the entirety of the teaching. Learning to just be. And the problem is learning. Because learning is crazy. How can you learn to be what you already are and always have been? So it's like, let go of all that stuff and find your way into the source power, if you will, the deep well of or ocean of what you already are. That's the journey. And there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to get. Meditation is a process that kind of roots you into that experience, but ultimately there's nothing to do. There's just wake up in the morning, take a breath, brush your teeth, have a cup of coffee, read the paper, go to work, look outside, enjoy the daylight, have a day, have a life, be alive, be you, be you. And you don't have to do much, because it will just happen. And it will happen sometimes miraculously. Things you don't expect come out of nowhere. And you will recognize them because you're present, you're awake, you're aware. Unlike many people who are so caught in the drama of seeking endorphin connectedness, people caught up in that, fighting that. Should I have that cake? Should I not have that cake? I know it tastes good, I'll put on 5 pounds, but I really want it, I don't really want it. That drama is how people live. Should I say hello to her? Should I not say hello to her? She may reject me. She may accept me. Maybe I'll have a life with her. No, she'll never talk to me. Living like that, which is how people live, is the source of ongoing awfulness. And it just goes on and on, even if it becomes subterranean. So it's not there as a noisy factor, but just like, oh God, it's never going to happen for me. I know it's not going to happen. I'm going to give me some ice cream. Okay, I'll watch some TV. You know, I mean, I look at the lives of people around me, and I go, oh my God, they have no clue. No clue. And there's nothing I can say or do that I know of that's going to change it. But I can be a source of connectivity. I can be an endorphin rush in their lives. I can reach out and send an email. I can call. I can hug people. I can tell them that I love them. I can care about them. I can be present with them. That's it. That's what I can do. And it's also what you can do. It's not hard. It's not hard. You can go out there and be the endorphin. You know, be the connective source. Be the thing that makes people feel that they're worth it. And don't do it from a personality place or an ego place or a mind place. Do it from the freest place in you, because at some point, if you really do this work, you will honestly care about other people. You will honestly want to love them. Not that you'll want to. You don't have a choice. Because I'm telling you, you guys are so beyond lovable, and that you don't always know that is part of the struggle of human life. Trust me, you guys are lovable, worthy of love, worthy of being, worthy of attention, worthy of a powerful embrace from the very source of all being. It thanks you for doing this. It thanks you for living. It thanks you for being part of the world. It thanks you for being a connector in a world that is often repelling. There's so many repulsive forces. Be the opposite. The universe is connecting. I mean, if I take this really deep, it's also repelling. It expels and it draws back. It moves outward and it moves inward. This is the way the dualistic universe works. But when you finally get to this really, really still-pointed being, outer and inner, up and down, in and out, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just is, and that's what you are. So now I can trip back into the same old thing over and over and find 1,000 different ways to say this, but that's the message. Be the connector. You are the connector, and you are connected, and you are what makes other people happy if you want to be that. So, do your part. Any questions? One other element to this, then. It's a life's work, and it's not a casual practice. If you want to try to do what I'm talking about every so often when you feel like it, good luck. Better than not. But if you want to become yourself, it has to drive you every day. It has to be part of you every day. And if you have to cultivate that, if you have to pretend it, if you have to dream it, if you have to force it, I'm telling you, it's worth it. But this stuff, this kind of awakened revelational awareness does not happen casually. And if it does, you're going to find a lot of work following it. This is, as Rudy kept saying, a life's work. And it's the work. And if you're tentative about it or tepid in your involvement, it will not unfold. It just won't happen. You'll be like those millions of seeds on the side of the road that don't root. If you want to root, trust me, digging into that soil is not easy. You hit the clay part, it's really hard. You have rocky stuff under there, and you got to keep expanding and working and working and working to get all that nutrient. And then what happens? This little tiny thing comes out of the earth. It's not that big. And all that root's starting to work it, and then it goes, and it just goes up and up and up and up and up. And then, years later, it's an incredible tree. It's an incredible tree, but it's all work. And that root system keeps growing to match the leafing system, and it really goes out, and then there's this dynamic thing going on, and you got to keep it going. You got to keep it going. And if there's no water for you, you got to reach out further. And then you're going to reach other branches that are, or roots that are trying to reach the same thing, and you know, you're going to have to go, get out of my way. You know, that's what trees do. But in a more wonderful worldly sense, or spiritual, metaphysical sense, if you dig deep and your roots go deep, you will never be without the nutrients that you need to be. Okay, that was the, what do you call that?
Postscript.
Okay, encore, yeah. Okay. I'm still open for questions, but if there's no questions, we'll call this the end. Okay, thank you guys.